The Prelude, a rising tension in heaven, an exposing and hilariously sarcastic reflection. Long before time as we know it began in the vast and eternal realm of heaven, everything was supposedly perfect. The biblical God sat on his radiant throne, basking in glory, surrounded by an angelic choir singing endless hymns. Heaven, we're told, was a place of harmony, peace, and eternal worship, a divine utopia. Among these celestial beings was Lucifer, the light-bearer. Not just your average angel, Lucifer was heaven's golden boy. He was wise, beautiful, and powerful, described as a guardian cherub and a literal showpiece of perfection, Ezekiel 28:12-15. But as the story goes, Lucifer wasn't satisfied. He started to believe the hype about himself and thought, why should all this glory belong to God? I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will make myself like the Most High. Isaiah 14:13-14. Boom. Just like that, the heavenly drama began. Lucifer, heaven's star, went rogue and convinced a third of the angels to join him in his divine rebellion. But let's stop and ask some important questions. How does rebellion even happen in a perfect heaven? The paradox of a perfect heaven, a place with issues. Heaven is marketed as the ultimate destination. No sin, no sorrow, no tears, no evil. So how does the most audacious act of defiance in history unfold in such a place? Was heaven not as perfect as advertised? Did Lucifer's pride slip past quality control? The Bible describes Lucifer as being created perfect. So where did this pride come from? Did God in his omniscience not see this coming? Did he knowingly create an angel with a rebellion streak? Or was this some divine experiment gone wrong? Theologians often point to free will as the culprit. Lucifer had the freedom to choose. But think about it. How much free will can you exercise when standing in the overwhelming presence of an all-powerful creator? Was this really about choice, or was the system flawed? If heaven isn't immune to rebellion, can we really trust it as the paradise it's claimed to be? Should believers be worried about another celestial coup once they arrive? Will there be a Heaven 2.0 ? The declaration of war, a battle in the clouds? Lucifer wasn't content with whispering discontent. No, he launched a full-scale rebellion, gathering a third of heaven's angels for what can only be described as the worst career move in history. Lucifer must have been persuasive, though. His pitch probably went something like this. Do you really want to spend eternity singing the same hymn over and over? Follow me, and we'll make heaven ours. On the other side stood Michael, the archangel. His name literally translates to, who is like God? A fitting reminder to Lucifer of who he was dealing with. Michael rallied the loyal angels, including Gabriel, the messenger, Raphael, the healer, and maybe even Uriel, depending on your theological flavor. But here's the kicker. If the biblical God is all-powerful, why was a war necessary at all? Couldn't he have snapped his fingers and ended the rebellion instantly? Why delegate this cosmic crisis to Michael? Was God sitting back with celestial popcorn, enjoying the drama? The war in heaven, swords, angels, and absurdities? Revelation 12:7 describes a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon and his angels fought back. Pause for a moment. Heaven, a place synonymous with peace, became a battlefield. How exactly does war work in heaven? Angels are spiritual beings. Are they wielding fiery swords or just throwing heavenly insults? Did the golden streets get scuffed during the fight? And why does this war feel so human? Then there's Lucifer's strategy. Did he genuinely think he could overthrow the creator of the universe? Did no one in his camp stop to think, wait, we're fighting the guy who invented existence, this might not end well. Why does heaven have gates? Is the biblical God paranoid? Before we move on, let's talk about the gates of heaven. Revelation 21:12 mentions that heaven has 12 gates, each guarded by an angel. This raises a slew of questions. Why does a perfect realm need gates? Is it to keep someone out, or worse, to keep someone in? What's the point of guards? Is the biblical God afraid of intruders? Why 12 gates? Is heaven prone to overcrowding? And who gets assigned to gate duty? Are the gatekeepers angels who didn't perform well in the war? Imagine Gabriel's resume, fought in the war of heaven, delivered divine messages, now working security, the turning point, Satan's defeat, Earth's curse. Despite all his efforts, Lucifer's rebellion failed spectacularly. He and his followers were cast out of heaven, Revelation 12:9. But here's where things get weird. Satan wasn't destroyed. Instead, he was hurled to Earth. Why Earth? Humanity didn't ask for this cosmic problem. Why not send Satan to some uninhabited part of the universe? Earth was doing fine, relatively speaking, and now it's stuck with Satan's wrath. This feels less like a resolution and more like shifting the problem. humanity became collateral damage in a celestial conflict it didn't start. The aftermath. Satan's wrath, humanity's problem. Revelation 12:12 warns, "Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has gone down to you. He is filled with fury because he knows that his time is short." So now, earth is Satan's playground and humanity is caught in the crossfire. But why allow this? If the biblical God is all-powerful, why not obliterate Satan outright? Letting him roam free seems counterproductive. It's like evicting a troublemaker from your house and sending them to live with your neighbors. Exposing the eternal drama. The war in heaven is often framed as a story of hope, justice, and divine triumph. But when you dig deeper, the cracks in the narrative become glaring. How does rebellion occur in a perfect realm? Was heaven's perfection oversold? Why allow a war instead of an instant resolution? Is the biblical God omnipotent or just a fan of celestial drama? Why cast Satan to earth? Humanity didn't sign up for this mess. Perhaps this story is less about divine justice and more about humanity trying to explain the existence of evil. Or maybe it's an ancient attempt to reconcile why bad things happen under an all-powerful deity. We find ourselves at the center of a story told from the perspective of an omnipotent, omniscient God, a being whose very nature seems to defy our understanding of free will, justice, and morality. This narrative, known as the War in Heaven, has long been a foundational myth for religious traditions, casting Lucifer's rebellion against God as the pivotal moment in a celestial drama. But as we peer into this ancient tale, a troubling question emerges. Could this story, as we've been told, be a grand manipulation? A cosmic farce where freedom, justice, and choice are mere illusions? What if the narrative of Lucifer's fall, the war in heaven, and the subsequent suffering of humanity were not signs of divine justice or the triumph of good over evil, but rather reflections of a deeper, more uncomfortable truth? Could it be that the Creator, knowing every step of the drama before it unfolded, allowed or even orchestrated Lucifer's rebellion? Could the entire celestial battle be a carefully crafted story to reinforce divine control, a cosmic script written to ensure that the Creator's authority never comes into question? These questions invite us to consider the possibility that the divine plan is flawed, that the universe itself is built on an intricate lie designed to keep us playing our roles in an endless, predetermined play. In this exploration, we will confront the uncomfortable contradictions embedded within this mythos, challenging long-held beliefs about omnipotence, omniscience, and the nature of divine justice. The story of Lucifer's rebellion, as we've always been taught, might not be a tragedy of pride or a lesson in divine morality, but rather a critique of the very framework in which we understand creation itself. We begin with the paradox of omniscience. If God is all-knowing, why would he create Lucifer, knowing full well that rebellion was inevitable? Why would the Creator, in his infinite wisdom, allow a being to fall into sin when the outcome was already certain? The very existence of Lucifer's rebellion seems to challenge the notion of a benevolent Creator, forcing us to ask, was Lucifer's fall a preordained event, one that God orchestrated from the start? If God created Lucifer with the full knowledge of his future disobedience, does this imply that Lucifer's rebellion was not just inevitable, but necessary for the divine plan? The narrator dares to suggest that Lucifer was never truly free to choose his path. If God's omniscience maps out every possible outcome before it happens, what real choice could Lucifer have had in his rebellion? Was pride truly Lucifer's fault? Or was it a condition of his design? The very concept of free will becomes suspect. Was it simply a tool of divine control, a mechanism to ensure that both angels and humans played out their parts in a grand, predestined cosmic drama? Heaven, as the ultimate realm of peace and perfection, raises troubling questions as well. If heaven is a place of ultimate tranquility, why are there gates, barriers that protect it from some unknown force? Why would a perfect and all-powerful God need such protection in his own domain? The existence of gates in a supposedly perfect world suggests that there is more at play than divine peace, pointing to a deeper, more complex purpose behind the design of heaven. As the story unfolds, we encounter the rebellion itself, the moment when Lucifer, in his pride, decides to challenge God's omnipotence. But how could Lucifer, who was so close to God, be so blind to the futility of his rebellion? The very act of defying omnipotence seems absurd, a worm attempting to overthrow an elephant. And yet, this is the narrative we are given. Was Lucifer's rebellion truly a battle between good and evil, or was it merely the inevitable consequence of a flawed divine plan? If God knew it would happen, Why did he allow it to unfold in such a dramatic, destructive way? The cosmic showdown between Lucifer and Michael, the fallen and the faithful, becomes a battle not just of pride, but of flawed beings caught in a divine trap. Is this truly a struggle between light and dark, or is it just a farce, a cosmic play where Lucifer was doomed from the start? The rebellion, rather than being a genuine attempt at defiance, becomes a tool for God to justify his own wrath. The rebellion is often framed from God's perspective, his loyal angels, his wrath, his ultimate triumph. But what about Lucifer's side of the story? Is there more to his rebellion than mere arrogance? Could it be that Lucifer's actions were not simply the result of pride but a critique of the very order God had established? In this light, the rebellion becomes more than just a cosmic tragedy, it becomes an act of defiance against an oppressive divine regime. The fall of Lucifer is framed as a moment of divine justice, a necessary consequence of rebellion. But is eternal damnation for a single act of defiance just? If Lucifer's fall was inevitable from the start, preordained by God's omniscience, can we truly call the punishment just? The concept of divine justice begins to unravel as we confront the uncomfortable reality that Lucifer may not have been punished for his disobedience, but rather for fulfilling the divine plan itself. If God created Lucifer knowing he would fall, and if God's omniscience ensured that fall was inevitable, then isn't God complicit in the rebellion? The fall of Lucifer is not a tragedy of free will gone astray. It is a flaw in the very architecture of creation. Eternal torment for finite rebellion becomes a manipulation of divine power, a means of reinforcing God's supreme authority. Why of all places was Lucifer cast to earth? Why would a perfect, all-knowing God choose this particular realm for Lucifer's exile? The question invites further scrutiny. Why does humanity seem to be punished for a rebellion it didn't initiate? Are we not merely pawns in a celestial drama where our suffering is a consequence of divine manipulation? The creation of evil itself becomes a profound dilemma. If God is perfect and benevolent, why would he create a being capable of evil in the first place? The creation of Lucifer seems to be an act of hubris, knowing full well that Lucifer would fall. In this light, the war in heaven is not just a story of rebellion but a profound critique of God's own creation. The existence of evil becomes necessary for God to maintain his power, the foil to his goodness, the means by which he proves his supremacy. The creation of beings with the capacity for evil, and then punishing them for it, reveals a deeper moral flaw in the divine narrative. Did God create Lucifer to be the villain, setting him up to fall so that he could ultimately emerge victorious? This question casts a long shadow over the entire story of creation and the very nature of divine justice. Who wrote the story of the war in heaven, and why is it called the Word of God? Was it divinely inspired, or is it simply the interpretation of human authors attempting to convey a message from the divine? The origins of this ancient tale are shrouded in mystery, and its reliability as a source of truth is deeply questionable. How can we trust a narrative so distant, so shaped by human biases and interpretations? At this point, the entire story of the war in heaven begins to look more like a theater of the absurd. Why would an all-powerful, all-knowing God engage in such a drawn-out, destructive battle? What purpose does it serve beyond perpetuating divine authority? In this cosmic game, heaven becomes a realm of eternal disruption, constantly threatened by rebellion, and humanity, caught in the middle, plays the role of the audience, forever trapped in a drama we never chose to participate in. The tension between free will and divine control resurfaces. If God is omniscient, then are our choices really our own, or are we simply following a script written long before we even existed? Humanity, like Lucifer, may be no more than puppets in a divine charade. Are heaven and hell real places, or are they merely symbolic constructs? If they are real, why are their descriptions so inconsistent? The narrator questions the very nature of these realms, suggesting that they may not be the final destinations of righteous and wicked souls, but rather symbols of divine control and manipulation. The eternal struggle between good and evil, as depicted in the war in heaven, is not a necessity of divine order, but a cosmic imbalance that perpetuates God's authority. Lucifer, now ruler of hell, continues his rebellion, but in doing so, he challenges the eternal stagnant order of heaven. His defiance gives him a form of power that even God cannot control. The narrator suggests that both heaven and hell are prisons, places of eternal servitude and defiance, where their inhabitants are trapped in an endless cycle of divine manipulation. If Lucifer's rebellion is against God, Why does he focus so intensely on tormenting humanity? Why does he seem to target those who follow the divine path, especially if humanity never asked to be part of this celestial conflict? The focus on human suffering reveals the deeper cosmic drama at play. In the end, the war in heaven is revealed not as a tale of good triumphing over evil, but as a cosmic farce, a carefully constructed narrative designed to perpetuate divine authority. The rebellion of Lucifer and the ensuing punishment exposes the flaws in the very nature of divine power and control. If God is truly omnipotent and omniscient, why allow Lucifer to exist, knowing his rebellion would unfold as it did? The ultimate question remains, are we all simply actors in a grand play where the outcome was decided long before we took the stage?